This is the plaintiff, Gordon Dennis Sagwitz. He says he was hired to edit some surveillance video for a court case the defendant was involved in, and he worked 25 hours and still hasn't been paid for his services. It's been 2 years now, and he can't get the defendant to cough up his do-re-mi, so he's suing the louse for the $1,875 he's owed. This is the defendant, Ralph Feinberg. He says the plaintiff didn't do a good job editing the video because it looked dark and gritty and was obvious he didn't know what he was doing. It would be one thing if the plaintiff's work was sufficient because he's not in the business of stiffing people, but the guy got in way over his head and he owes him nothing. He's accused of cutting an editor out of wages.
All parties, please use your right hand.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff was hired by the defendant to edit surveillance video, didn't get paid, but the defendant says the plaintiff did a crappy job. It's the case of somebody's watching me.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Mr. Sagwitz, you're suing Mr. Feinberg for $2,280 in video editing work that you did for him for a criminal case, was it?
It was a case in the...
A criminal or civil?
Criminal and civil.
Right, but what case did he do the work for? Both?
Both.
Okay. And according to you, he has paid you how much?
Zero.
Zero. Okay, what happened here?
Well, we got in touch with each other through Craigslist. He was looking for a video editor, but a sort of a forensic video editor, because he was quoted at $4.50 an hour. Somebody else, he didn't want to pay that. So he called me under an assumed name, and I said, if I can do it, I'll do it for $75 an hour, because I'd never done any surveillance video work.
What was it you were supposed to be doing with the surveillance video?
First, go through the surveillance video and find the crucial evidence that he needed to exonerate himself.
Which is, he wanted you to find evidence that what?
Would exonerate him from...
Right, which was what?
Allegedly having dragged a complainant by the arm and having had his window down and yelled, impersonating a cop.
Okay. So the surveillance footage isn't going to show what he might have said, but the question was his window up or down?
Yes.
And is there surveillance video of him dragging someone out? That's what you were charged with?
Yes, found not guilty.
Okay.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Yes.
What, you were found not guilty after a trial, or the witness didn't show up?
Trial.
You had a trial?
Nine
Jury
counts.
or judge?
Jury, not guilty, 37 seconds.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay. He said, if you can do it, I'll send you to my...
So you cap it at $650. You tell him, I charge $75 an hour, and the most I'll charge you is $650.
Yes.
And he agrees to that?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
It's kind of exciting. So I took these videos home.
Tell me the work you did. I still don't know what you were supposed to do.
So, okay, so...
Look for evidence that you're supposed to look for the surveillance, see the moments when a supposed dragging had occurred, see that it didn't, and see that the window was up.
Right, but it took a long time to figure out what he needed, and I had to make those files work, so I had to cut down 20 minutes of 30 frames per second to something shorter to highlight what he needed, because there's so much traffic and people walking around. Then I had to convert that to another format, to drop it into Photoshop, to isolate the single frames, to blow them up.
To make pictures?
To highlight things. And,
and highlight them by making still shots, like making pictures of it?
Yes.
Okay.
So the lower left one, for example, shows that his window is up, and his argument was that if he was yelling out of the window, impersonating a cop...
Right, and so he couldn't have been, because if the window is up, then how could he be saying, but I don't know how that shot shows the window is up?
Because of the reflection on the window.
Oh, I see. All right.
And then there are other ones, Your Honor, up top that are a little harder to see because they're blown out, because these are very low-res surveillance videos.
Right. They're where? They're on like somebody's business?
They're on these, these little cameras, they're little round cameras.
Who does it belong to, the surveillance video? Where'd you get it from?
I got them from a real estate office.
That happens to have it in front of their place. Okay,
Yes.
and these show what?
These show his car is the upper right one leaving the scene, and it's hard to see a man being dragged. It doesn't mean it didn't happen a
Wait,
couple
where's
seconds
the car?
before that.
I can't see a car there, I
On the
just see-
right-hand side, yes, up there in the little box.
Uh-huh.
That's his car. The two headlights there, that's his car.
The
Right
two
there.
are those taillights or headlights?
Headlights.
Okay, and so this is supposed to show what?
Since if you, where your fingers, you see a man standing there?
Right.
When it's very low or very high contrast video, if there were a man there, you'd see a dark figure by
Okay.
the car,
All right,
for
so
example.
what happens? You hand it to the lawyer or to this defendant?
I didn't hand anything to anybody until I got a deposit, so I held on to the video.
How much of a deposit did you get?
I didn't get a deposit.
Oh, well then what happens? He's in
So-
trial and nobody's paying you to get your work?
Well, he kept promising to pay me over the phone. I'll meet you, I'll give you
Did you
some
ever
money.
talk to the lawyer other than to get the DVD from him?
I did not.
So the lawyer didn't hire you, he hired you.
Correct.
All right, why won't you pay the guy?
So the case involves, I hired him to extract, while the video was playing, I wanted him to point out with arrows, red, blue, green, whatever it was, certain incidents which took place on that video. And we never got a video from him doing any of that.
Well,
And
did you
then-
pay the guy a penny? That's a no, right? Well, that's why you didn't see a video.
Then he didn't have to do the work.
No, he did do the work, and then you and your lawyer decided not to use him. You ended up getting acquitted, and then you had no intention of paying the guy.
We didn't
That's
pay him.
kind of what it looks
We
like.
didn't pay him way ahead of time.
Right.
Because he didn't do the right work. He brought us the work prior to
I thought you said you never
anything
saw what you wanted.
I didn't see anything on a video. I saw the pictures. Those pictures, you can't tell what those pictures
Okay,
are.
but what was your agreement with him to do what?
My agreement with him was to do 3 hours worth of work at a cap.
Oh, prove that, because he says the cap was 650.
Well, let him prove it. And then
No, he just did. He
I've
testified
never
to
seen-
it,
I've
and,
never seen
that sounds reasonable, and you're saying it's not, and I know that you ducked him for months and months
No,
and
we didn't
months.
duck.
And
I did not duck anybody. He came to the lawyer's office the day that he came to the lawyer's office was the day before the trial. And then he came the day of the trial, and he tried to give
yeah,
us
but
the same pictures.
why are you saying that? When did you hire him to come to the lawyer's office?
I asked him to give. I didn't see any of
I'm
this.
sorry, you just pointed out that he came the day before the
He
trial.
did,
Like,
he
that's
did.
so insulting. When
He
did you
did.
hire him? How long before
I have
that?
an objection.
Just a second.
Okay.
What day did he not?
He was supposed to bring us pictures of work that he supposedly did.
Right.
And he didn't. And then he said, well, I'll
So
do
he
it
met
when I
with
get
you
paid.
and your lawyer for how long?
15 minutes, and my lawyer said, it doesn't show me anything, and he threw them, and the lawyer got mad at me, started screaming at me. Then he came again the next day with the same pictures. My lawyer said, I can't use any of this
Did
stuff.
that happen?
No.
So if there's a dispute over fee, do you have to pay what you think it's worth, or can you not pay anything until you agree?
I think you have to pay whatever the person agrees to.
So if they're in a dispute, well, that's the question. It's not agreed to. Do I have to pay you what I think it was worth, even if you think it's worth more, or can I not pay you anything until you agree with me?
I would say like what it's worth, because if you don't pay anything, then
You look unreasonable.
yeah, exactly.
Fair enough, going inside the courtroom.
So did you come the second day with other work? Did they tell you we need you to put arrows on the moving video, not just the pictures, anything like that?
There is some indication with the red boxes of what they
That's a
what they
picture.
wanted.
Do you have that on the video? Like there's a red box on the video.
They didn't tell me to put it on the video.
Did anybody tell you to put an arrow on the video as the video's moving?
No, because like if they said we need this, I would have done it.
Okay, and you were just waving a paper. Let's see what the paper says.
This is what
and
the
why,
ads-
if you had a cap of 650, are you suing for 2,280?
Because the last 2 days, he had exceeded the hourly cap that we had agreed.
How does this help you? You just
Agreed
showed
to?
me that what you wrote here was need to depict certain frames from a surveillance video. How would that show that it was arrows on a moving video as opposed to certain
To
frames? of a
illustrate on the video, I'm sorry, it's this one, from
Okay.
the video itself.
So why are you suing for triple what you capped it at?
Because the last 2 days, and I have it in text and I have it in an email, I said, look, I started on 9:43 a.m. the day before the trial, which I had kept asking Ralph for a period of 4 months. Are we not going to meet? Are we not going to meet? It was his decision, to meet before the day of the trial, not mine. I would never do that.
Of course
That
not.
is,
If he wanted to meet you sooner, he would have.
There's too
What I'm
short
trying to
notice.
figure out is do you still have the ad you answered?
I
that I don't.
Do
I
you-
don't.
You don't have
the
it.
ad, yeah.
You have entered into evidence not only before trial, but right now. The first thing you had to do was need a person to depict certain frames for a surveillance video. And then this, which has no dates on it, I have no idea when this is from, says, need help with video surveillance tape, need to illustrate on the video with colors, circles, or squares certain frames. This work is more for a videographer than a forensic specialist. Look, it doesn't matter. Like, if anybody had, if you needed, what happened is that you guys decided you weren't going to use it. If your lawyer said to him, I need you to do X, and he didn't do it, why don't you have your lawyer here or an affidavit from your lawyer?
This is also showing.
Is that from the lawyer?
This is also.
Is that from the lawyer?
It isn't, but this shows that he said it was $650 after the date.
Yeah, he said after the date. He didn't get anything from you guys.
No. But this is after the date. He still wants $650 after the trial.
Of course he wants $650 after the trial. What do you think, that you don't have to pay your bill just because you won?
I'm happy
That's usually, listen to me. Don't do work until you get a deposit. This is how this stuff works. Okay? If they don't end up using you, they're not going to pay you. And if they use you, they're not going to pay you. As long as they don't need you anymore, they're not going to pay you. So experts, you've never done this before, they don't go to court and they don't hand their work over until they have been paid for their work. What is wrong with you? And if they weren't going to pay you for that work, they're certainly not going to pay you when the trial is over. Now, at some point during the text back and forth, you tell him, let's settle this for $350.
Yes.
An answer came there, none. Why was it? And you had said to him before that, give me a fair bill, give me a fair bill. Why isn't $350 fair? The guy's on standby. The guy ends up watching all the videos. Why isn't that fair?
He put $650.
In the text that I read.
Well, here's his email for $650.
Put the paper down.
I'm sorry.
Now listen to me. In the texts, he says to you, look, to get this over and done with, I want to put this behind me. I'll settle for what, $350?
Yep.
And you don't answer it. You had previous to that, the day before, said, send me a bill I can live with that's fair. Well, you were looking for a discount. And then he gave you that discount, and then you just never answered him again?
That's not true.
Oh, you did answer him. What'd you say?
Yes, I did.
What'd you say?
I told him to get me an invoice, and I still don't have an invoice, and I'd like to see 25 hours.
Okay.
I don't have an invoice. I don't have anything.
Okay.
I have a copy of the invoice that I sent him.
Right. So tell me.
For 25 hours?
For the
Why do you say
650.
25 hours? Why do you
Because
keep-
25 times
Oh,
75.
he's not getting 2,200. The only
25.
thing that's at play here is 650. So that's 8 hours. And I think that based on what I've heard, that he did 8 hours worth of work, including being on standby for a trial. You guys decided not to call him, and that's fine. You can decide that, but you can't just stiff the guy and pay him zero. If you had paid him $300 and you felt that's what it was, and we were litigating, but you just ignored him, and you just decided not to pay him
we
anything.
didn't put him on
so
standby. He
$650 verdict for the plaintiff.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Well, for the defendant, Mr. Feinberg, this was not a fine day in court. If you'll step over here, sir.
wasn't a bad day.
No, you're still going to have to give him $650. That's
Oh,
better than
okay.
what he was asking
Yeah,
for.
he's not a corporation. He's kind of fibbed
Oh, come
about a
on,
lot of
you
things.
know, that's
He's-
all right.
he's
You
a-
hired him. You hired
He
him.
told me he was a corporation. Then we looked it up, and he wasn't. Well, I never got
Bottom
a chance
line,
to
you
say
hired
that.
him and you didn't
No,
pay
no,
him.
there's no problem. I wish him all the best.
You do? Good. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Why didn't you pay him?
We did.
What a character.
Oh.
I got to tell you.
Yeah, well, he is kind of a character.
All right.
In a way, you're kind of a character. What is all this?
These are my awards. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division for 3 years.
Yeah? Do you wear them all the time like that?
Whenever I wear my suit, I will put my medals and my badges on.
Good for you. All righty. Anyway, you happy? You didn't get the 2,200 you were getting?
It's a little odd that we went way over the hours, but it's better than nothing.
All right. Fair enough. You think you did a decent job for him?
I did exactly what he wanted. I put 1,000% into the job.
Good for you. Thank you.
All right.
All right, sir. Bye now. Harvey?
Well, I think what we talked about back there is it's pretty accurate, is that, if you're in a dispute, at least pay what you think it's worth. You're going to look better to the judge. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.